From Japan, Marilyn traveled alone to entertain American troops in Korea. Marilyn would later describe this event as unequaled in her lifetime. Never before, she said, had she been showered with so much love.
Marilyn, at her very, very height, had achieved what every other actress in town would have given their eye teeth and everything else for. She had achieved that. There was no one, and Marilyn didn't even recognize it, because truly highly recognized actresses wanted to talk to Marilyn, be seen with Marilyn, be photographed with Marilyn, because she was getting that recognition that nobody got like she got.
Can we get pictures here?
And yet there's so little happiness with that. Why? Because first you want attention, but when you get attention, then you want respect.
I must have been 16 years old. I was in California with my mother, who traveled with me, shooting Picnic. And I went on to 20th Century Fox, and Marilyn was shooting There's No Business Like Show Business. And she was doing We're Having a Heat Wave, Tropical, and they did it over and over and over again. And she slipped and fell. And I remember that she flushed a blush, that, I haven't blushed in years, but a real kind of humiliated blush. And I realized how much more sensitive she was.
People talk about how frightened or timid or scared she was. I remember she wanted a slightly different look than the studio was permitting you to have. And Marilyn, the fight for the most minute details, meant to be talked about and an outcast, and it was more than most people could bear. And Marilyn stood up for the tiniest little things, because she was this perfectionist about what her vision and how she wanted her vision to be brought onto the film.
She came over to my mother and she said, "Oh, Mrs. Strasberg, something I've always wanted to meet your husband, and I would like to study acting." And of course, we just thought she was talking. And about 6 months later, she showed up in New York.
First, Marilyn was to make the 1955 movie, which confirmed for all time her role as the goddess who was all bubbles and sweet innocence. The 7-Year Itch. With this scene, the goddess created her own icon.
Didn't you just love the picture? I did. But I just felt so sorry for the creature at the end.
Sorry for the creature? Why'd you want him to marry the girl?
He was kind of scary looking, but he wasn't really all bad. I think he just craved a little affection, a sense of being loved and needed and wanted.
That's a very interesting point of view.
Oh, do you feel the breeze from the subway? Isn't it delicious?
Marilyn's marriage to Joe DiMaggio had ended after only 9 months, but her fans were still caught up with the pleasures that her special brand of innocent sexuality could bring.
She really felt she didn't have the inner qualifications to fulfill the image of the sex goddess. As a comedian, I think she was very comfortable. But she thought that the whole thing was a lie because it was not her. And so she tried to wrap it up, and she was going to New York, and she went to the Actors Studio, and she wanted to find some firm ground.
And they begged her to stay, and they offered her more money, and they offered her anything that she wanted. And then she turned it all down, and they said to her, well, what do you want? And she said, I just want to be wonderful.
Riding a pink elephant, she dazzled New York. But a new, more serious Marilyn was waiting in the wings.
Here on 11 Acres, Marilyn Monroe.
On April 8th, 1955, she was interviewed by Edward R. Murrow at the home of Milton Green, vice president of the newly formed Marilyn Monroe Productions.
Marilyn, tell me, what's the basic reason for this corporation?
Primarily to contribute to help making good pictures.
Well, would it be fair to say that you got rather tired of playing the same kind of roles all the time and wanted to try something different?
It's not that I object to doing musicals or comedies. In fact, I rather enjoy it. But I would like to do also dramatic parts, too. That covers it.
Well, Marilyn, now that you're a New Yorker, how do you like this city, anyway?
Oh, I love it. Everyone's very friendly, and it's a very optimistic, friendly city.
Well, are you always recognized wherever you go in New York?
Not really. I can put on a no polo coat and no makeup and get along pretty well.
She had these two sides, and in a way I really liked the side of her that she didn't show to the public so much. The no makeup, the kind of the little girl. Interesting, not sexual, really. It was almost asexual in its quality. She was flirtatious and charming, but without that need to put on that other mask.
You see, in Hollywood, she always felt she had to be a star on and off, which meant playing almost two parts. The part of the star off the screen, and then the part that she was also playing on. That's very wearing.